The first thing that fell off was the perfume, not the scent itself. I knew that overpriced floral cloud like I knew my own heartbeat, but where it lingered. Not on her skin, not in the bedroom, not even in the bathroom. No, it was on the steering wheel of her car, soaked into the leather like a confession whispered by friction. That detail alone didn't shatter me. What twisted the knife was that it wasn't her car. She drives the Jeep. The sedan, my car, was parked 2 blocks away, carelessly wedged between a fire hydrant and a lamppost like it had been abandoned in a hurry. It was a Saturday morning, one of those fake happy spring ones with enough sunlight to trick you into forgetting your life's about to fall apart. She was still asleep upstairs, mouth slightly open, face turned toward the window like she'd been dreaming of something warm. Maybe someone. I stood in the driveway for a long time, staring at my own car like it was a riddle. It wasn't until I opened the driver's side door and smelled that perfume, her perfume, on the steering wheel that I felt it. That pull in the gut, the one where your instincts and your pride get into a fist fight. The seat was pushed all the way back, too far back for her short legs. There was a half-drunk bottle of Evian in the cup holder. She doesn't drink Evian, calls it overpriced French toilet water. But her earring, the little gold one I bought her for our 3rd anniversary, was wedged between the seat and the center console, and that was all I needed to know. She'd been in my car. Someone else had driven it. Someone tall. Someone who liked French toilet water. But I didn't storm into the house. I didn't yank the sheets off and demand an explanation. That's not how men like me operate. We observe. We collect. We sharpen knives in silence. I walked back inside, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table scrolling through her Instagram with a dead expression. She'd posted a throwback photo the night before, her in college, holding a red Solo cup, captioned, "Miss these days with the best people. Can't wait for the reunion. Red heart." And just like that, the reunion became my stage. Our 10-year college reunion was next month. She'd volunteered to help organize it, of course, Miss Popularity, always needing the applause. Her friends adored her. Professors remembered her. Even the old campus bar had a drink named after her. And that's when the idea started to bloom. Not rage, not heartbreak, strategy. I had 4 weeks. For weeks to orchestrate a social death so poetic, so surgically precise, she'd never recover. But it started here, now, in the silence of our kitchen, with her upstairs sleeping off another lie. The next few days were quiet, calculated. I started compiling screenshots of her texts. I'd cloned her phone months ago, not because I suspected anything, but because in our world, paranoia is just preparation with bad PR. I watched the messages pile in. Not from one man. No, that would have been too clean. There were 3. One she called baby, one she called trouble, and one, hilariously, she called don't text. The last one was the boldest. He sent her a selfie from my car. I almost laughed. Almost. But I didn't confront her. I kissed her goodnight. I helped her pick out outfits for the reunion. I even offered to edit the guest list. "You always make things so much easier," she said one night, curling against me like she hadn't just sent another man a photo of her in my bathrobe. I smiled. That's what I'm here for. The only thing colder than betrayal is pretending it doesn't bother you. Every night, I lay next to her with the calm of a surgeon prepping for a heart transplant, while in the dark, I plotted hers. I ordered flash drives, 50 of them. Sleek, silver, laser engraved with the phrase, "Old Memories." I loaded each with a curated folder, photos of our wedding juxtaposed with screenshots of her texts, footage from the dash cam in my car, which she never knew existed, even audio clips from calls I recorded when she used speakerphone. Each flash drive was a bullet. A silent little bullet aimed at her reputation, her friendships, her standing. And the guest list? I made sure the right people were invited. Her old mentor. Her best friend from college who'd always hated her a little. Her work friend who had a massive moral superiority complex. Her mom's bridge club friend who still ran the alumni newsletter. The setup was clean. The room was booked. The catering was paid for. She picked out a dress and twirled for me, asking if she looked stunning. "You'll take everyone's breath away," I told her. And she would, just not the way she thought. At first, everything seemed normal. Mornings were the same. Her humming in the kitchen while the coffee brewed, a kiss on the cheek before she left for her run, the soft, "love you," over her shoulder as she grabbed her keys. We still had our inside jokes, our dinner rituals, our lazy Sundays watching reruns of shows we both hated. I used to catch her staring at me sometimes, eyes soft and warm, like she was remembering something from the early days. And I let myself believe that was enough, that the routine, the laughter, the shared grocery list meant we were still solid. But then came the cracks. Tiny, almost invisible at first. She started journaling. Nothing wrong with that, until I realized she never left it unattended, even around me. It went from the nightstand to a zippered pouch in her bag, then finally to the locked drawer in her office. Just processing some things, she said when I asked. Trying to grow. Then came the books. Dozens of them. Self-help titles about boundaries, feminine energy, inner fire, wild women who run with wolves. One night she highlighted a passage and read it aloud to me over dinner, something about shedding identities that no longer serve your soul. I smiled, nodded, cut my steak. Didn't ask which identity she was shedding. I already knew. Her phone habits changed too. Where she used to scroll mindlessly beside me, now she angled the screen just slightly away, always flipped it face down. Notifications got quieter. One night it buzzed on the counter while she was in the shower, and I glanced without meaning to. Just a preview. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about. Then it disappeared. I stood there holding a spoonful of soup, staring at that lock screen like it had spit in my face. But I didn't confront her. Not then. Not yet. Because people text weird things, right? Could be a joke. Could be anything. Except that the next morning, she was radiant. Glowing. Bouncing around the kitchen in leggings and a sports bra, singing old songs she used to love. When I kissed her goodbye, her lips were warm, but they didn't linger. Her eyes darted past me like she was already somewhere else. That week, she canceled date night for me time. Said she wanted to reconnect with herself. I offered to cook at home instead, keep it low-key. She smiled like I was adorable and said, that kind of defeats the point, babe. Then she left, in full makeup, wearing a necklace I hadn't seen before. She came back late, smelling like sandalwood and something metallic I couldn't place. I asked how her night was, and she told me it was transformative. Like she'd undergone some spiritual molting. I laughed, but she didn't. Just kissed my forehead like I was a child who didn't understand the world yet. She started locking the bathroom door. That was new. Not every time, just enough for me to notice. I'd hear the muffled buzz of her electric toothbrush, or sometimes just silence. I knocked once, and she snapped. Can I just have a minute to myself? I apologized. I always did. I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed, or hormonal, or working through some mid-30s identity crisis. I wanted to be patient. I wanted to be the supportive husband. That's what they always say women want, right? A man who listens, who holds space. So I did. I held space like it was my job. And in that space, she grew more distant. Started talking about redefining happiness and being intentional with energy. One night, I walked into the living room, and she was meditating with her headphones in. I waved, smiled. She didn't even blink. 20 minutes later, she walked past me like I was furniture. The love didn't disappear all at once. That's the worst part. It faded like pain in sunlight, slow, uneven, cruelly subtle. She still said she loved me. Still signed text with hearts. Still wore the necklace I gave her, occasionally. But her eyes stopped meeting mine when we talked. She stopped asking about my day. Stopped laughing at my jokes unless someone else was around. I used to think silence between us was comfortable. Lately it felt like suffocation. I came home early one day and found her car gone, even though she'd said she was working from home. No text, no call. Just an empty house, a faint trace of that floral perfume in the hallway, and her laptop closed on the kitchen counter. Later, when I checked the mileage on her car, it didn't match where she said she'd gone. I checked again. 3 times. The math didn't add up. Neither did her stories. But I still didn't say anything. Because saying it out loud would mean accepting it. That I was being replaced. That her soul-searching was just a smokescreen. That I'd become the roommate with the ring, the steady shadow in her spotlight. She started wearing new clothes, too risky, fitted, flattering in a way she hadn't bothered with for years. I just want to feel alive again, she said when I complimented her. Like I'm not wasting my best years. I told her she looked incredible. She smiled, but it wasn't for me. That smile was aimed at someone else in her mind, someone I'd never met. Someone tall, probably. Someone who drank Evian. She told me she was going to a yoga workshop that Saturday, some women-only retreat focused on breathwork and deep womb healing, whatever that meant. She packed light, leggings, a rolled-up mat, a thermos of herbal tea, and that little red bag she never let out of her sight anymore. Said she'd be gone till early evening, maybe later depending on traffic. She kissed me on the forehead like always, said, "Don't wait up," and I didn't. I just watched her walk out the door like I was watching a rerun, noting every frame. 15 minutes after she left, I walked into the office and opened the laptop she thought I didn't know the password to. She had 2 emails open, one from her yoga instructor confirming she wasn't signed up for any retreat that weekend, and another draft addressed to someone named R. It was short, just a few lines. I told him I'm at the workshop. "I'm heading to you now. I need your arms more than I need oxygen today." She hadn't sent it yet. Probably planned to do it from her phone. I closed the lid slowly. No panic. No trembling hands. Just a cold, smooth click. I stood in the center of the room and let silence bleed into me. My breath slowed. My thoughts didn't spiral. They narrowed. Sharpened. I'd already installed the GPS tracking app on her phone 2 weeks prior, just in case. Now I pulled it up and watched her little blue dot drift across the city, nowhere near the yoga studio she mentioned. Instead, it stopped, half an hour later, at a mid-range condo complex on the other side of town. Not a hotel. No cheap motels. Just a clean, quiet neighborhood filled with units meant for single professionals who didn't want the mess of home ownership. I recognized the address. It belonged to a coworker she'd mentioned once. In passing, said he was too intense for her taste. Funny, considering she was parked outside his place. And then the final blow came, swift and almost poetic in its cruelty. I logged into her shared cloud account. Something she forgot was still linked to our home computer. There, in the recent uploads, was a video, 30 seconds long, blurry, shot in a dim room, but unmistakable. Her voice, breathy and laughing. His voice, lower, whispering her name like it was a sacred hymn. A clumsy hand reached toward the camera and turned it off with a giggle. It was dated 3 days ago. The same night, she said she'd been at her sister's helping with her baby. And that was it. No more suspicions. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. The illusions she fed me with her soft kisses, her late-night cuddles, her careful lies, they didn't just collapse. They dissolved. Evaporated. She wasn't just straying. She wasn't lost. She was gone. I closed the laptop. I sat back in my chair. My heartbeat didn't spike. My jaw didn't clench. I didn't cry. I just stared at the wall, and something inside me adjusted. Something final. The gears of a clock shifting direction. My mind began to catalog, to strategize. Not how to confront her. No, that was too small. Too easy. I didn't want justice. I wanted clarity. I wanted her to feel what I now felt. Like the world she thought was hers had been tilted without warning. I wanted her to see the love she once owned become a weapon forged in silence. From that moment forward, I never looked at her the same way again. Her laughter became static. Her touch became empty. And her voice, once sweet, once home, became the soundtrack of a ghost. I was done being deceived. Now, I would become the deception. She had no idea the man sleeping beside her had become a shadow, a ghost in his own house, a predator watching every flicker in her behavior like a lion studies a limping gazelle. I played the long game. I didn't scream when I saw the video. I didn't flip tables or check her phone obsessively. That's amateur hour. Instead, I started a timeline. A meticulous, color-coded calendar that tracked her lies against reality. Every girl's night, every late meeting, every yoga class, I mapped them. Compared the stories she told me with GPS data, call logs, receipts she forgot to delete. Then I started asking innocent questions, seemingly disconnected, light, casual. How was that new Thai place you went to with Megan? I'd say, knowing full well Megan was 200 miles away visiting her parents. Did you get a lot done at work yesterday? You looked tired when you came home. Of course she'd lie. And I'd nod, smile, kiss her on the forehead, and log the details in my little black notebook. Yes, a literal one. I wanted something tactile. Something I could feel in my hands as I documented the collapse of our life. I never wrote names, just initials. Time, place, discrepancy, pattern. She was a sloppy liar. Confident, too. That was her weakness. She thought she was smarter than me. Thought the yoga retreats and vague spiritual lingo would confuse me into silence. But I understood patterns. I understood human behavior. I watched her best friend, too, Kelsey. Always in the background, always covering for her. So I followed Kelsey. Not in person, too risky, but digitally. I watched her likes on social media, her check-ins, The tagged photos she didn't bother to hide. One night, Kelsey posted a blurry boomerang from a rooftop bar, clinking glasses. I paused it. Zoomed. There she was. My wife. Wearing the same top she told me she'd spilled wine on and had to throw away. Smiling with that same smug grin she used to give me before she became someone else. I reverse image searched the bar lights and cross-referenced them with the timestamp. She'd said she was at a meditation class. The lies weren't even creative anymore. I started testing her reactions. You should see the new security features they added to iPhones, I said one night. They can detect if someone's lying to you. She laughed nervously, brushing it off. But her hands fidgeted. She stopped looking me in the eye. I made a note. The next day, I scheduled a flower delivery to her office. A simple bouquet of lilies and a card that read, "Hope your meeting went well." She thanked me when she got home, said they were beautiful. But I called her office that afternoon. She hadn't been in. Said she was working remote. The receptionist sounded confused. "She's off today," she said. "It's her mental health Friday." Strike. Another entry in the book. Then came the bank statements. I didn't look for large, flashy purchases. That's what most men do. No, I looked for repetition. The same gas station on the other side of town, the same cafe receipts at odd hours, rideshare charges that didn't match her travel story. I ordered a prepaid card and started making small purchases under a fake name at the same places. Why? To muddy the waters. To create an alibi for myself in case she ever grew suspicious and tried to accuse me of anything. I became a ghost with a footprint. I messaged her work friend from a burner account. Just a simple compliment on a picture that had her and my wife in the background. I waited. 2 days later, my wife mentioned that same photo over dinner, her tone slightly forced, rehearsed, like she was testing to see if I'd seen it. She was baiting me, and I played dumb. Because dumb men are safe. Dumb men don't watch your eyes when you speak. They don't study your speech patterns and breathing. They don't notice how you stammer slightly when you lie about where your phone is. And they certainly don't install a second tracking app in your smartwatch after you stop taking your phone into the bathroom. But I did. She started using the voice-to-text feature on her smartwatch more and more, thinking she was clever. She'd dictate little love notes under her breath when she thought I was asleep. I recorded them, played them back while she was in the shower, memorizing every word, every disgusting whisper. She called him her anchor, said she wanted to disappear into his world. She was disappearing, all right. Into a cage of her own making. I studied her like a language. I stopped reacting altogether. She could walk in at midnight, breathless and flush, and I'd hand her tea like nothing was wrong. My indifference became armor. She noticed, but didn't comment. Probably assumed I was checked out, detached, emotionally distant. The usual nonsense women recite to justify betrayal. But I wasn't distant. I was focused. Every lie was fuel. Every excuse, a breadcrumb. She was leading me straight to her heart's filthy little sanctuary. And I followed in silence, a scalpel behind my smile, watching, learning, preparing the stage where I'd dismantle her life one silent move at a time. She thought it was a surprise date night. That's how I framed it. An upscale restaurant downtown, the one with the rooftop view and the vintage jazz soundtrack she always claimed felt like a movie. I told her to wear something elegant. Told her it was just the two of us. Just like old times. She smiled like a child handed a wrapped gift, kissed my cheek, and asked if she should curl her hair. I told her she should look unforgettable. She did. Tight black dress, red lipstick, a necklace I gave her 2 anniversaries ago, the same one she once wore to a different kind of dinner, one that ended with her moaning someone else's name in the backseat of my car. I stayed calm as we arrived, calm as we were seated. She talked more than usual, maybe nervous, maybe relieved. I nodded, laughed when required, sipped my drink like it didn't taste like betrayal. 10 minutes in, as the appetizer arrived, a waiter approached with an envelope. Thick, black, sealed with red wax. I told her it was part of the evening. An experience, I said. You'll love it. She opened it with painted fingers, smiled as she slid the photos out, until she saw them. A freeze in her expression, like a glitch in a machine. There she was, in full color. Her body wrapped around a man who wasn't me, kissing him in the parking lot behind his building. Another shot, her hand in his back pocket, laughing. A third, inside the car, my car, her mouth on his neck. She stared at them for a long time, like maybe if she blinked enough they'd rearrange into something innocent. Her first words were soft. This isn't what it looks like. I didn't speak. Just reached for my glass and took a slow sip. We were just talking, she tried again, her voice tighter. I was comforting him. He's going through something. I raised an eyebrow, but still said nothing. It was a mistake. Okay, she snapped suddenly, volume rising. A couple at the next table glanced over. She noticed, lowered her voice. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Still, I stayed silent, let her writhe. You never paid attention to me, she whispered next, the edge of blame curling into her words. You've been so distant lately. I didn't know how to reach you. She placed a manicured hand over mine, but I didn't move. This doesn't have to mean the end. We can fix this. We've been through worse. I looked at her then, really looked, at the desperation behind her eyes, the panic she tried to dress as sincerity. You chose him over me, I said finally, my voice quiet, surgical. Not once. Not by accident. Repeatedly. With planning. With enthusiasm. She opened her mouth to protest, but I continued. You used my car. My name. My time. You wore the jewelry I bought you while you were being unfaithful. You came home and slept beside me with his sweat still on your skin. You lied so casually, I began to wonder if you even knew where the truth ended. Her hand recoiled. Her lip trembled, then curled into a smirk. You think you're so clever, she said, voice brittle. Setting this up, like some kind of gotcha moment. You think you're better than me? You think you're pure. I didn't answer. You don't even know what I've been through, she hissed. I needed something real. I needed someone who saw me. You were always so cold. So calculated. Calculated? I repeated, calmly. You're just mad I did it better. The color drained from her face. What does that mean? She asked, voice faltering for the first time. I leaned forward, expression still unreadable. It means the game is over. You've already lost. You just don't realize how bad yet. She looked around, suddenly aware of how still the room had become, how quiet the nearby tables had gone. Please, she said, barely audible. Can we talk about this at home? I smiled slightly. There is no home. Her breath caught. What? Check your phone, I said. She fumbled with her clutch, pulled it out, unlocked it with shaking fingers. As she scrolled, her eyes widened, messages from family asking what was going on, her sister texting he knows. I'm so sorry, a group chat lighting up with the photos I gave her just moments ago. I had sent them to everyone before we even sat down. Friends. Family. Her coworkers. The school parent group she managed. Even her boss. How could you do this? She whispered, her voice small now, all venom gone. I leaned back, folded my hands. You spent months crafting a world where I was the fool. Tonight, I returned the favor. But I did it with taste. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. No more excuses. No more lies. Just the realization that everything she had carefully constructed, every story, every fake tear, every manipulative breadcrumb, was now crumbling under the weight of my silence. She wasn't crying. Not yet. She was still trying to find the angle. But there wasn't one. The walls were closing in. And I wasn't done. Not even close. I watched her squirm, a queen knocked off the board but too arrogant to see checkmate approaching. I signaled the waiter for the check. Slowly. Calmly. Never taking my eyes off her. She followed me out of the restaurant like a storm trailing behind a wall, heels clacking too fast against the sidewalk, voice sharp and shaking with rage wrapped in desperation. So that's it, she snapped. You're just going to throw everything away over a few mistakes? I didn't respond. Just kept walking. I knew something was off with you lately, she hissed. You've been cold, distant, this whole thing, this setup? It's your fault. I turned slowly, met her eyes, silent. Don't you dare look at me like that, she spat, stepping closer. You think you're some kind of martyr? Some noble victim? Please. You've been smothering me for years. Always needing everything just so, always analyzing. Always watching like I'm one of your little projects. You think that's love? That's control. You controlled me. I tilted my head slightly, amused. You confuse being observed with being owned, I said quietly. You were never mine. That's the problem. You were everyone else's, and I was just the placeholder until your next craving kicked in. She flinched like I slapped her. You want to pretend you were perfect? You were boring, she sneered. Predictable. You never surprised me, never challenged me. I felt like I was dying in that house. You think what I did was wrong? Maybe. But at least I felt alive for once. I gave a faint nod. And now you'll feel forgotten. Which is worse. She took a step back, eyes narrowing. You know what? Screw you. You're not some stoic hero. You're a coward. You didn't even have the guts to confront me like a man. You hid behind emails and photos and group chats like a bitter little troll. What kind of man does that? I leaned in, voice low and deliberate. The kind of man who let you bury the knife before twisting it out with your own hand. Her breath hitched, shoulders rising. You think this makes you strong? You think this performance makes you powerful? You're a child playing revenge games because he couldn't keep his wife interested. No, I said simply, I'm the man who walked out while you were still clinging to a lie. Her expression fractured, rage splintering into panic. You can't just walk away from this like it means nothing, she shouted. I gave you everything. I gave you my youth, my body, my life, and sold it piece by piece for a few forgettable moments with strangers, I interrupted. You gave me nothing that wasn't already used. Her mouth dropped open, but the words didn't come. Only air. We were supposed to be forever, she said after a moment, voice shaking. You said you'd love me no matter what. I did, I replied coldly. And you made no matter what mean nothing. She started to cry then, real or rehearsed. I couldn't tell and didn't care. She clutched my arm. Please don't leave like this, she begged. We can fix it. We can go to therapy. We can talk. I stepped back, letting her hand fall. You don't want reconciliation, I said. You want preservation. You want the illusion intact. The pictures on the wall. The holiday posts. The applause from people who never knew the truth. But that illusion died the moment you invited someone else into our bed in spirit, even if not in body. She gasped. We just slept together sometimes. Then your soul was cheaper than I thought, I replied. I could have respected a woman who left. I could have respected the honesty of that. But you stayed. You played house while playing mistress. You smiled and served dinner and kissed me with someone else's breath in your lungs. That's not just betrayal. That's theater. And I don't watch reruns. Her face twisted, rage blooming again through the cracks of her performance. You think anyone will care? You think they'll all take your side? People forgive. They move on. They forget. No, I said with a ghost of a smile, they remember. Because I didn't just reveal what you did. I revealed who you are. And that can't be unseen. Her legs buckled slightly as she sat down on the curb, mascara streaking, breathing ragged. I hate you, she said, almost a whisper. I hope you know that. I crouched beside her, voice barely audible. I don't need your love. I don't fear your hate. Because for the first time in this entire charade, you're the one powerless. You're the one staring at a future that no longer includes me. And unlike you, I never begged to be kept. Her mouth trembled. She looked up at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her anymore. She didn't. That man was dead. I stood up slowly. She didn't follow. Didn't speak. Just sat there, small, broken, the queen without a board. And I didn't walk away yet. Not yet. I wanted her to sit in it. To feel the silence she had created, one where no forgiveness was coming, no comfort, no rescue. Just the echo of her own actions, finally louder than the lies she used to smother them. The first thing I did was isolate the perimeter, digitally, financially, legally. No dramatic exits. No loud accusations. Just silent, surgical separation. I had already made copies of everything. Messages, videos, timestamps, even voice memos of her whispered calls at night when she thought I was asleep. I created an external drive and labeled it simply D. Inside it, I organized her betrayal like a case file, by date, by act, by partner. There was no room for interpretation, no space to twist the truth. It was all cold, clinical, damning. Then I opened a new bank account in my name only and slowly redirected every automatic deposit, every investment payout, every side project royalty into it. Over the course of 2 weeks, I drained the joint account, carefully, methodically, leaving just enough to keep her unaware but not enough for her to take anything meaningful when the floor finally collapsed beneath her. I called the credit card company next. Removed her as an authorized user on every card I owned. Canceled the joint ones. Applied for a new line with a fresh address and no links to her name. The day she tried to pay for brunch with her new boy toy, and the card declined, that would be the first flicker of panic. I wanted it to build. I wanted it to escalate in stages, like a slow-acting poison. I transferred the utilities, electric, water, internet, out of our names entirely and into a property manager's name I'd hired discreetly to prepare the house for sale. She wouldn't see the listing until it was already under contract. The car she used? Mine. Registered in my name. I tracked it via GPS to her lover's apartment one final time, then drove there with the spare key, got in, and left her stranded without a word. I sold that car 2 days later. No note, no warning, just a missing vehicle and a gap in her little world of convenience. I met with a divorce attorney I'd handpicked, a woman who specialized in high-conflict cases with infidelity involved. She had a reputation for being ruthless behind a quiet smile. We filed everything silently, under seal, citing irreconcilable differences but attaching the evidence package just in case it came to court. She didn't get served immediately. That would come later, when the timing was right. Meanwhile, I sent packages to a short list of people who mattered in her life. Her mother, her boss, 2 close friends. Each one received a manila envelope, inside it a note. You deserve to know who she really is, followed by a curated sample of screenshots and a printed photo or 2. Nothing pornographic. Nothing crude. Just enough to tilt the image of her carefully curated persona until it shattered on its own. Her mother called me in tears. Her boss didn't respond directly, but her contract wasn't renewed for the upcoming quarter. One of her friends blocked her entirely. The other replied to me with a single message: "Thank you." I went further. I requested a quiet audit of her company's expense account, anonymous tip. I had seen her reimburse rides that weren't work-related, charge dinners that ended in bedrooms, not boardrooms. HR doesn't usually act fast, but when they do, it's deadly. I made sure to leave digital fingerprints in her cloud storage, her own emails forwarded to herself, documents left open, tabs still running on her work laptop when she left it unattended. Enough to stir doubt, enough to trigger scrutiny. She thought she was still in control. Thought I was grieving, licking wounds, maybe plotting a dramatic outburst I'd never deliver. But I was already gone. The legal documents were filed. The accounts were closed. The locks were changed. The house? Sold. The car? Gone. The mutual friends? Carefully divided with surgical diplomacy. Those who leaned toward truth stayed with me. Those who didn't were left to her orbit, poisoned with quiet doubt. She noticed when the world stopped texting back. When invites dried up. When her parents stopped asking about our marriage. She noticed, but she still believed she had time. That I'd eventually call. That I'd show up at the door with flowers or fury. She didn't realize the door didn't exist anymore. She was already locked outside of a life that no longer included her, circling a house she couldn't find on any map. And as the final move approached, service of papers delivered to her at work, in front of her team, followed by a transfer notice from HR, I sat back, untouched, unreadable, and unbothered. Because revenge isn't loud. It isn't messy. It's quiet, calculated, clean. And by the time she realized what had happened, there was nothing left for her to hold on to but her own crumbling reflection. She didn't realize what was coming, not at first. Not when I offered to accompany her to her firm's quarterly mixer, the one she used to gush about for weeks in advance, the one where all the partners mingled with the staff and the chatter flowed like wine. She was nervous, more so than usual, but she tried to bury it under extra perfume and tighter heels, a black cocktail dress that hugged her a little too hard like she was trying to dress her way back into control. She kept glancing at her phone during the drive, fingers twitching with every buzz, but I didn't ask. I just drove, composed, quiet, let the tension rise in her like steam sealed inside a pressure cooker. We arrived at the event space, polished, upscale, lined with soft lighting and carefully staged floral arrangements. People turned when we entered. Not with admiration. With recognition. Not the warm kind. The heavy kind. The kind that sticks to the air like fog before a storm. At first, she smiled through it, a practiced gleam. Waved. Air-kissed. But there was hesitation now, confusion. A few people returned her smile with thin-lipped nods. Others looked past her. A couple women she used to lunch with turned their backs outright. "Is it me, or is everyone weird tonight?" she asked with a dry chuckle, trying to mask the tremble in her voice. "Maybe they're just awkward around power couples." I didn't answer. Just offered her a drink, which she declined, then stood beside her in silence like a shadow she couldn't shake. We hadn't been there 20 minutes before her name was whispered in every corner. Phones were out. Glances flicked like knives across the room. She still didn't know what had happened, didn't know that earlier that afternoon, an anonymous envelope had landed on every executive's desk in her firm. Screenshots. Messages. Photographs. Labeled, "Discretion is not a virtue when it violates trust." No explanation needed. Just the truth, raw and unfiltered. Her boss hadn't approached her yet. Neither had HR. They were letting the social damage work first, softening her for the formal strike. But her lover was there. He arrived late, clearly not expecting to find her draped in silence and social rejection. When their eyes met across the room, she straightened like a rope had pulled her spine into place. He looked at her with something close to panic. She started toward him, quick, purposeful. But he stepped back. Just once. Just enough. And in that half-step, she knew. He'd received his own version of the truth earlier that morning, delivered to his office, just like hers. His messages. Her words. The timestamps. The way she'd told him she was divorcing me for love. He realized then, standing in that suit among his colleagues, that he'd been a prop. Not the fantasy she sold him, just a phase. His mouth moved, but no sound came. Then he turned and walked away. Just like that. No goodbye. No confrontation. Just removal. Her face froze. Her hand dropped. She looked around, as if expecting someone, anyone, to come comfort her, rescue her from the sudden and unbearable void forming around her. No one moved. No one spoke. She was a statue crumbling in real time. She turned to me next, the only familiar thing left in the room, her voice cracking through a plastic smile. "What did you do?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "Did you set this up? This is insane." I didn't reply, just held her gaze like a mirror. She took a step forward, voice louder now, brittle. "You think this makes you righteous? You think humiliating me like this fixes anything? You're sick. You're a control freak. This is abuse." Still, I said nothing. Her hands trembled as she pointed at people around us. "They don't even know the whole story. They only know your version. What did you show them?" "Huh? You twisted it. I know you did. You always twist everything." A woman from her department walked past and muttered under her breath, just loud enough, "We believed in you," and kept walking. That was the crack. The big one. Her mouth opened, shut, open again. I didn't mean for this to happen," she said. "This time to me, this time with something real leaking out between the lies. I made mistakes, yes, but I didn't deserve this." And there it was. The final mask slipping, not rage, not arrogance, just fear. Naked, shaking, grasping at air that wouldn't hold her up. "Say something," she pleaded. "Please." I took a step closer, slow, calm, enough that she could feel the gravity of me without touching. I leaned in and said, "I already did. You just didn't listen when it mattered." Her eyes glossed, and for the first time since this entire thing began, she didn't have a comeback. No defense. No mockery. Just the horror of seeing herself through the eyes of everyone she once fooled. And I stood there, motionless, letting her feel it. Not leaving. Not rescuing. Just letting her know that the man she betrayed had been watching the whole time, and would never look away again. It happened 2 days after the mixer, at her parents' anniversary party, a small gathering at their house, just close family and a few longtime friends, meant to be a quiet celebration. I showed up early, by request. Her father had called me the night before, voice hoarse and subdued, asking if I'd still attend. He said her mother had questions. Said they deserved to hear it from me. I agreed. I arrived calm, collected, and watched as the guests filtered in, exchanging greetings and sipping wine under soft patio lights strung across the backyard. She came late, of course. Always loved an entrance. Walked in like nothing had happened, smiling like her world hadn't been scorched to ash. But I saw the tremor in her hands when she hugged her mother, the stiffness in her jaw when she saw me speaking quietly to her father. Then her friend Kelsey showed up, once her closest ally, now barely offering a nod before walking past her. That's when the air shifted. That's when she started cracking. She pulled me aside, behind the hedge lining the deck, eyes wild and darting. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. "You're trying to ruin everything, aren't you?" "I was invited," I said flatly. "Some people still think truth belongs at family events." "You smug." She bit off the word, glanced around. "You think you're the victim? You think you're noble, showing up with your little files and stories?" "No," I said, stepping closer. "I think I'm honest. And that's more than you've been in years." She laughed, brittle and high. "You want a medal for being boring and predictable? For being a walking calendar with no soul? You want applause for watching your wife disappear and not doing anything until it was too late?" Voices were starting to hush around us. People were noticing. Her mother stepped out onto the deck, brows furrowed. My brother moved closer, arms crossed. I didn't lower my voice. "Too late," I echoed. "I let you destroy yourself in real time. I didn't interrupt. I didn't stop you. I gave you the rope and watched you tie the noose." "You're sick," she snapped, tears forming in the corners of her eyes. "You've turned everyone against me." "No," I said coldly. "You did that the moment you chose strangers over loyalty. The moment you smiled in my face with his fingerprints still on your skin. There was a sharp inhale from someone behind us. Her friend Olivia. Her cousin. Her father walked up slowly, eyes locked on his daughter. Is it true? He asked her, voice cracking slightly. All of it. She turned, deer in headlights, then snarled at me, pointing. He made it worse than it was. He twisted it. It wasn't just me. He was never really present. He stopped loving me years ago. No, I cut in, voice now rising just enough to silence the yard. I stopped trusting you the night I found your earring in the backseat of my car after you said you were at Megan's. I stopped believing you when you started calling me babe again only when your phone buzzed. I stopped being yours when you started rehearsing my compliments and giving them to other men. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Her mother gasped. You said you were working late, she began. You told me it was a women's retreat, her father murmured, almost to himself. It was, she stammered. I needed space. You needed validation, I barked, voice now cutting through the murmurs. And when I didn't shower you with confetti every time you remembered to come home, you went looking for it in places that smelled like desperation and cologne. She turned on me like a switchblade. You're not innocent. You're cold. You pushed me away. I was drowning, and you didn't even see it. Because you were busy swimming in someone else's pool, I snapped. The crowd was still now. No one was eating. No one was drinking. Just watching. Listening. Olivia put her hand to her mouth. Her father sat down in one of the patio chairs like someone had punched the air out of him. Her sister started crying. And then, like she couldn't take the silence, the weight of eyes pinning her like knives, she screamed, You all think he's a saint. He's not. He's a manipulative, judgmental robot who couldn't love me unless I fit in his perfect little box. I stepped forward, slowly, so close she had to look up. I loved you when you were a mess. I loved you when you cried over nothing. When you failed. When you lied about small things because you were scared of being judged. I loved you when you didn't deserve it. But I don't respect you anymore. And that's something you can't fix. Not with tears. Not with apologies. Respect doesn't come back once it's betrayed. You killed it. And now you're here, bleeding out in front of the people who once adored you. And you know what? I feel nothing. No hate. No pity. Just clarity. She broke then. Fully. Collapsed to her knees, sobbing, mascara streaking down her face as her mother knelt beside her, unsure whether to hold her or recoil. My brother reached for my arm, but I shrugged him off gently. I wasn't angry. I was clean. I was finished. I turned without another word, walked out of that backyard with every eye on me, and her sobs still echoing in the night like the funeral hymn of a woman who finally understood what she destroyed. 3 months. That's how long it took for everything she built to rot and collapse beneath her. Her job, gone, terminated quietly under the guise of restructuring, but everyone knew. Clients stopped returning emails. HR strongly advised she not attend any more company events. Her name had become a whisper in glass offices and conference rooms, a warning cloaked in faux professionalism. Her friends disappeared faster than rats on a sinking ship. Some blocked her. Others sent a single, parting message, I can't be associated with this. The woman who once filled her days with brunches, shared Pinterest boards, and group chats now sat alone in an apartment half the size of the closet she once bragged about. She moved 2 cities over, picked up shifts at a boutique store with no windows and no expectations. No one there knew her past, and she didn't offer it. The affair partner? Vanished. He ghosted the moment the pressure turned public. No apology, no explanation. Just deleted accounts and unread messages. She called me one night, number still saved under the name I used when I loved her. I let it ring. Then again the next night. I answered the second time, said nothing. Just listened. Her voice was brittle, like it cracked on the way out of her throat. I'm sorry, she breathed, and for once it sounded like she meant it. I don't sleep anymore. I don't laugh. Everything's gray. You were right. About everything. I destroyed it all. I see that now. Still, I said nothing. I would give anything to go back. To undo it. To be the woman you thought I was. There was silence, a long one, like she was hoping I'd offer something comfort, rage, anything. Then came the desperation. I still love you. A pause. Then I replied. Strange. I don't even remember your name anymore. And I ended the call. The next week, she came to my door. I knew she would. Her car pulled up slow, like she thought moving quietly would soften the shame. She stood there for a full minute before knocking lightly, like she was hoping I wouldn't answer. I did. She looked worse than I imagined. Pale. Smaller. like the weight of guilt was physically compressing her. Her eyes were red, makeup streaked in dried lines down her cheeks. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She didn't cry. Maybe she had nothing left. "Please," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Just let me explain. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't know where else to go." I stared at her, at the ghost of someone I once cherished, and all I could feel was distance. Not anger. Not sadness. Just distance. Like staring across a canyon at a stranger who vaguely resembled someone I used to know. "You're not lost," I said calmly. "You're just not welcome here." She winced, nodded once, and turned back down the steps. She didn't look back. That was the last time I saw her. Maybe she went home. Maybe she drove until the road ran out. I didn't care enough to check. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger. It's apathy. It's standing above the ruins of what they burned, untouched by the flames. It's knowing they'll never forget you, but that you've already forgotten them. Thank you for listening to my story. Let me know where you're tuning in from, and tell me, did you enjoy the ride?